It is showtime. Perfect. Okay, so people are streaming into the LinkedIn. I was saying off camera that I came back from South America with strep. So I am both the gyno trap. I don't think you were online yet when I said that. So I'm really rocking like a tinted moisturizer wet hair look. We agreed the community would just like go with the flow because I'm still showing up because I am excited to be a part of this discussion with two of my absolute favorite humans. So, Jennifer and Travis, while folks are coming onto the call, I would love if you would give a brief introduction of yourself and sort of your background in business, in sales. Jennifer, can we start with you?
Sure. So I am a geospatial engineer by training. I moved over to the business, the revenue generation side of the house years ago with a fast growing technology company, and have never looked back. I've always been very interested in how do you generate revenue for a company, and it could be in any industry. And so that's a little bit that's the short version of how I got into sales, how I got into revenue generation. And I love it. If a company is not generating revenue and doesn't have people on the team that know how to do that, it really is a skill. It is a craft. It's incredibly important. It's been an amazing career. Thank you.
Ooh, it is a skill. It is a craft. Getting head nods. I can't see the people joining us on LinkedIn, but I'm going to assume they're doing enthusiastic head nods as well. Travis, over to you.
Yeah, so I had my first sales job at Circuit City at age 16, selling full service Apple iPod, iPhone upsells to families, moms, dads, and then eventually computers, TVs. And then I actually started working in marketing. So, like, I was a marketer by trade, went to school for marketing, and fell into the sales world by accident, honestly. The company that ended up wanting to hire me was like, hey, we need a lot of help on the front lines. Like, do you know what business development is? Do you know how to set up these processes? And I was like, let me go ahead and Google that right quick. So when started, kind of figuring out like, oh, wow, like I love opening doors. Right. And one of my mentors was like, kid, key to business, open doors. If you can open doors and build relationships, you're going to get far. And I don't care what you do, what you sell. If you learn how to be expert at opening doors and providing value to the people that you serve, and to your point, Jennifer, it doesn't matter their industry. It's like that is the at least crux of what I've learned at its simplest form. And now, kind of transitioning all of that like tech background and things to support early stage founders. I have a startup studio that I run, and really helping people just figure out like how does sales work for me and how can I make this fit for what I'm doing versus kind of the other way around. So I'm super excited to be here. Love learning, love Leslie, and cannot wait to dive into some of the stuff today with y'all.
Yeah, I love that. The embracing like how can I make this work for me? That's something all three of us talk about a lot on LinkedIn. And if you aren't already connected to all of us, please do send those invites over. Something I'm particularly excited about for this book club discussion is it kind of feels like everything is coming together because Jennifer and I co-authored a book, Heels to Deals, How Women Are Dominating in B2B Sales. Travis and I met through a book club, a book writing. It wasn't a book club. It was a book writing masterclass. We are both working on other books behind the scenes. So it's really exciting to have met both of you through our love of books and writing and sharing, and then to get to come together and talk about a book that is incredible. We're going to jump right into this discussion because there's so much to cover. I see some folks already letting us know where they are joining from: California, Orlando, Louisiana, Texas. Thank you so much for being here. Other folks, let us know where you're joining from. Also, let me know where you are in the book. It's okay to be honest. You can say, I haven't even ordered it. Maybe you've ordered it. It's been sitting on the side of your desk for 3 months. Maybe you're halfway through, maybe you finished. It's okay, but let us know where you're at in the book so that kind of help guide the conversation. Just to level set, this was my kind of big takeaway from the book. We all face challenges in life, but with better habits, anything is possible. So as we jump right into the discussion here, I want to talk about powerful habits. And Jennifer, Travis, when you think about some of the things that you do consistently that you can genuinely say have helped shape your life, I would let's just start by throwing out some of the habits that we're excited about, and maybe they're not just good habits, maybe they're bad habits that have also shaped your life. I mean, for me, good habits like calm.com, I start almost every single day with a meditation. I'm obsessed with my Soul Cycle bike. I'm looking at it. It's right in front of me. I'm one of those people, and maybe folks will identify with this, that like loves and hates to work out. I am both obsessed with it and also despise it. So my habit is just to clip in. It's not to work out X number of days or do X, it's just to clip in. What about you, Jennifer? What are those good or bad habits that shape your life?
Yeah, my whole life. Okay, let's just talk about exercise. When I exercise, I feel better. My life goes better. I am much more attuned to things. I am much more focused. Like, it is one of those things that, and when I don't exercise, so when you talk about a good habit that sometimes you let go away for one reason or another, it is noticeable. So a habit that I really try to stick to is to exercise. And I love what you just said about your Soul Cycle and any type of exercise, like just clip in. I'm going to remember that when I put on my running shoes, or when I clip into, yeah, exactly, Travis. When I clip into my bike, like just clip in. I love it. Just like simplify that, which is part of, Atomic Habits and what the book talks about, the kind of simplifying things. Something that I do is I have been someone who meditates, and I've been doing that for years. Again, it's a little bit like working out, where I do it for a long time, not just 2 or 3 weeks, but a couple years. And then something will happen in life. Maybe I'll need to travel a lot, or life gets busy, things happen, someone's ill, and I get away from it for a little bit, and I notice it. It's just like with exercise. You really know, or I really notice. I shouldn't say you. I don't want to put that on anyone else. I notice when I don't meditate and when I don't exercise. I too love the Calm app. And that's something in the last couple of years that I really, I take 7 minutes every morning, the Daily J every morning. And it's a really nice way to wake up as, you're just kind of starting the day. So those are 2 habits. I don't know, Travis, do you have a couple of habits that you stick to? And if you don't stick to them, you realize it and feel it pretty quickly?
Yep. So I'm laughing because we're all mentioning meditation. I also meditate, and I use Simple Habit. I don't use Calm, but I use Simple Habit, and I use it often. And the other thing so meditation is one thing that happens hopefully every day. And if it doesn't, I typically will remember, because my streak is snapped, and that like pain of going into like a 47-day meditation streak, or like a 200-day meditation streak, and then seeing that it's snapped, you first get mad at yourself. That's what always happens. And then I'm like, it's okay, I can do it tomorrow. Right? It's just like, it's all right. You know why you felt the ways that you did, and that kind of helps to keep me grounded. Another habit is, after I meditate, I quickly proceed to learn something new. So it's like meditation, learn something new, whether it's music production, something for founders, something for content creation, another way to look at something, ancient Greek myths and theory, things that make me think in a completely different way. And then I then go probably to this app that's called, I think it's called Lumosity. It's a brain training app. So that's another thing that I consistently do, where there's games where there's like tell me which direction the middle bird is facing, and you have to swipe up, swipe left, swipe down. Is this the same pattern consistently in a row? And so it's like my, like, I guess, habit stack of 20 minutes is meditate, then learn something new, and then train my brain. And those are kind of like the three that I hope to get in at least every day.
Ooh, I love it. And we're already talking about so many different concepts in the book, like how can you make it as simple as possible to get the habit started? How can we habit stack? We have a couple of great comments from folks that are joining us. CFO Adam said, my good habit is eating candy corn every year for several months leading up to Halloween. You might think that's a joke, but I think he's serious based on what I know about
No,
Adam.
it's about anticipation. He's smart. He gets it.
He gets it. I love this one from Kristen because it's also about making it easy. Like there's a whole part of the book that's like, how can you visually put something in front of you to make it easy? So putting that water right by her bed. So she wakes up in the morning, she doesn't have to think about the habit. It's just that automatic, see it and do it. So love that, Kristen. Thanks for contributing. And a lot of folks joining us that have said that they have read the book multiple times. This was my second time reading it. I think both of you have read it at least twice. Travis, it wouldn't surprise me if you've read it like 5 times. But maybe I'll start with a bit of controversy, because there's a piece of the book that the first time I read it, and again this time, it made me bristle. And it's the goals versus systems concept. Yes, goals versus systems. So the sort of thinking of James Clear, the author, is that goals are this short-term things, one thing that you want to achieve, and systems are about the processes that lead you to those results. Here's what makes me bristle. James says that achieving a goal only changes your life for the moment, and that goals restrict your happiness because they are at odds with long-term process, long-term systems. So my question to you is, are short-term goals a waste of time then? Travis, maybe kick us off.
I mean, I'm going to be the contrarian, like I always am. I'm going to give you a real life example from the shirt that I'm wearing.
What is here? Let me go bigger screen.
Okay,
We're going into long jump territory.
Yeah, so long jump, triple jumper in college. And my only goal at the time was to qualify for nationals. And I was obviously trying to become an All-American, but I never reached that feat. But the goal of knowing that I got an all-expense flight and trip to Wisconsin lacrosse to compete in the national championship is something that I literally still to this day have the jerseys and the things that show me that, like, that goal reminds me of something that I did, even though it's gone. It is gone, but that, like, idea of a goal being something that, like, oh, it died off. I'm like, well, for me, like, I actually was a contrarian. Like, I still value and believe that this was good. So, like, for me, I'm like, yeah, I already have an example that it goes against the goal and systems, like, methodology at least.
Okay, so we're on the same page on this one, because I am also a big fan of short-term goals. And I don't think that not having it be a knock-on goal takes away for the thing that I've achieved in the moment, particularly because maybe I want to test something and it's not a habit I want to carry on. Maybe I realize it doesn't bring me joy, or it's like it's not in my lane. I also think about it a lot. Like, I do like a juice cleanse, and I feel great, right? I don't want to drink juice all the time. I don't want to like be focused on like being that healthy all the time. I want to sometimes have 3 martinis in a night with like a side of French fries for dinner, because that also brings me joy. You're really getting an inside view to the way my mind works, team. Jennifer, what's your take?
So this was a real like mind expanding moment for me when I first read this, because I have been And it doesn't surprise me that the three of us are friends and three of us kind of think about the world in a similar view. Like, I just love this because I too am a goal person. I'm a short-term and a long-term goal, and I'm very specific about it. When I was younger, I was a swimmer, and I had very specific goals, like hearing Travis talk about like goal. How fast was I going to swim this next race? What was my goal for the next year? Like all of these things. In reading reading this chapter or kind of this piece of the book, I even took some notes that I dug up from from a while ago when I read it. But I wrote down on a piece of paper as I was reading the book, goals, kind of either or, success or fail, process. These are small improvements daily, like it broadened my thinking so I'm not so sure that it changed my mind around goals, but it absolutely broadened my thinking around the processes, right? The process, the system that you put in place that I'm not so sure I ever really focused on. And so that opened up my mind to maybe not do away with the goals. I got it. Like I heard his point. I read the point, but for me, goals are really important. It sounds like they're important for you as well. But the systems or the processes, that's something that I put much more emphasis on and paid much more attention to. So I don't know. It's like it did the reverse for me. I kept the goal piece, but it opened up my mind around the processes and the systems, and it's really helped. It's really helped. It helps me reframe. It's helped me reframe.
And I think when we think about the habits we have that are maybe focused on like mental emotional health, things like journaling, things like meditation, those are the habits we're doing every day. When we think about short-term goals, it feels like, or it sounds like, we're kind of all putting that in a slightly different bucket of what drives us and what that achievement then means and how we can carry it forward, where it's not like the habit we're carrying forward, it's maybe just the joy of having made that achievement. So it's interesting that you said that was something in the book that you grabbed onto, and it maybe didn't have the exact meaning for you that James Clear wanted it to have, but it was still a really meaningful takeaway. That's how I felt, I think, about some of like the bad habits pieces of it. I'm going to put both of you on the spot. I have plenty of bad habits. I just shared that I love a martini or three. But the first time I read it, it was a moment where I actually looked not at the maybe traditional bad habits, like I wasn't trying to give up like smoking, but what are those small bad habits that are automatic and unconscious? Because that's what he really like pinpoints down, the automatic and unconscious. And it's when I realized how often I say I'm sorry when I have literally nothing to be sorry about. It was just this, oh, sorry, excuse me, sorry. So I would apologize for everything. And it was like a stopgap in my life where I was very then conscious about transitioning my language. And it wasn't that I would not ever make mistakes. I still make mistakes and have that automatic I'm sorry response, but then I'll replace it or add to it by saying, thank you for your understanding. Thank you for your flexibility. Thank you for waiting for me, and replacing that language, taking that bad habit and replacing it with more positive language. Did anything like that happen for either of you?
Travis is nodding his head. I have a couple, but Travis, what?
No, you go first, because I gotta formulate this so it makes sense. So you go first.
Oh my gosh, the pressure's on. Well, I will tell you a bad habit that I've gotten into fairly recently in the last year that I've really started noticing in the last couple of months, and actually was just mentioning to my husband this week, is, and James talks about it a lot, and I think other people have suffered from it earlier. For some reason, it just hit me in the last year, is social media. And it's actually the newsreel and a couple of other social media platforms that I never thought of as being negative, but I found myself over the last year spending much more time than I ever wanted to. And it was a slippery slope. And so I really caught myself on that just in actually kind of recently, but I'm much more aware of when I am when I'm on social media, for what purpose am I on social media? Am I being a consumer of social media? Am I actually producing something? Kind of like, where do I sit in that? Because again, and it snuck up on me. Like, it was really surprising where I realized, because I do have a habit from childhood of reading. I love to read. I realized I wasn't reading as much, and there were kind of books stacking up on my nightstand that I wanted to read that I wasn't getting through. And I was like, I mean, you had to, it seems silly to say this now, but I had to ask myself, like, why am I not reading as much? Oh, maybe because instead of 15 minutes a day of kind of consuming some social media, some fun social media, seeing whose babies have been born and, who was traveling and that sort of thing, and kind of interacting with people from all over the world that I'm friends with, or taking in news, right? That had really started to take on 30 minutes, an hour, sometimes an hour and a half of my day, which is just lost. It's just lost time. And so that's something that, again, I have friends who have noticed this much earlier, kind of in the world of social media. But for me, it's in the past year.
I don't think that's silly. I think that shows a huge amount of self-awareness to be like, to ask yourself that question, like, for what reason am I, like, what purpose is this serving? What is this bringing to my life? I have to set a timer on TikTok. Like, it goes off. I've spent more than 30 minutes in a day on TikTok, and I have to put in a code. Like, I have to hard lock myself down. So I'm with you that can be a slippery slope, and I guarantee that there are other people listening who are thinking, yeah, drive your face. What are you thinking?
I feel, well, two things. Like, one, I was going to suggest the timer thing to Jennifer, because I have timers on all my social apps, and I'll be doing the one more minute,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's a thing, right? So that's like that has helped me a lot. But like, as I think about like the things that I'm trying to get better at right now, like, one of my worst habits is not listening to my energy.
Tell
So
more about that.
I'll give you an example. Like, I set aside an hour today at 2 p.m. for prospecting, for example. And I know it's on my calendar. I know the motions of prospecting I need to be doing. My energy's like, no, you ain't. And so I'm like, well, hold up. I got a prospect. It's 2 p.m. It's on my calendar. And the challenge is okay, am I going to force myself to do this even though I'm not excited for it? And if I get here, my business is going to suffer as a result. And instead of accepting that as failure, and in the past, I would be demotivated. I would tell myself all of these crazy stories in my head. And then instead, I've given myself like a few kind of like mini games, like Mario Party type stuff, where I'm like, go play Guitar Hero for 10 minutes and then go back. Go walk Rocky for an extra time and then go back. Go lay on the floor in the living room with Betty, pet her belly, and then go back. Go ask Boo if she needs you to do something and then go back. And then you're like, oh, all right. Like, okay, yes, I didn't spend the 2 hours that I blocked, but I did at least get a little bit out of the thing that I am fighting myself to convince myself to do, even though it should be done and I know how to do it. But my energy levels are like, bro, I'm really not feeling this right now.
Ooh, there were
so ousting myself right now.
Yeah, there's so many things about that I
so relatable. Gosh.
Yeah, right. We've all been there.
Yeah.
100%. I absolutely adore that you've set up kind of a counterbalance system for yourself. So it's not an all or nothing. There's this really fascinating effect called the what the hell effect. And the premise is basically like, if you say I'm going to do this for 2 hours and then you don't do it for 15 minutes, you like, oh, what the hell? Like, I've already not done the 15 minutes. I might as well keep going. So I love that you've kind of gotten ahead of that. Like, you've set those proactive motions in place. Related, but kind of an aside to that, I have now for like the last 9 months been organizing my calendar, not just based on my 24-hour circadian rhythm, but on my 28-day hormonal cycle. So I hold activities for like the times of the month where I know I'm going to be pouring out creatively, where I know I'm gonna really want to connect with community, or times where I like crave admin tasks. I just want to check some things off a list, and I see how much of my overall activities I can organize based on the times of day and times of month where I am most likely to be excited about it. But yeah, gosh, that's so dang relatable. Yeah, I love that. Ooh, that's a good one. Now that's why I'm gonna like think about that. I'm gonna be thinking about that later. Oh, that's so great. And folks that are joining us, don't hesitate to drop in the comments. Like, what are your good habits that you're proud of? Like, let us celebrate you. What are bad habits that you're working on? Let us support you. What were your favorite parts of the book? Drop those into the comments as we're having this discussion. Or if you have any questions for Jennifer, Travis, or I, make sure to drop those into the discussion.
And somehow I just turned on the comments, so I see them all now. This
is fantastic. Yes.
I was thinking, wow, I don't know. Maybe we're not nailing it for our discussion group here. Here we go. Look at all these comments.
Oh, we're here. We're here. The community is here with us for this discussion. So obviously a huge part of this book was about goal setting, creating habits, creating processes. So about halfway through our conversation, I think a good topic is how do you set, no, that's not the right thing. Gosh, I'm just clicking buttons over here. How do you set habits and goals in your own life? I use a ton of different things. I use the ideal future approach. I'm grow certified. Backcasting is a huge thing for me. I'm a big fan of mini milestones, which James talks about a lot in the book when he talks about making it easy. What systems or processes have worked for you?
Gosh, the mini milestones that you just mentioned, the other kind of system or process that's worked for me is the and I'm blanking on it. It's called something, and maybe you or Travis can help me with it. It's when, let's say you're working out the next morning, right? And I always lay out my clothes the night before. That's just something that, like, so when I wake up, I don't have to think about it. Someone mentioned the glass of water. I always have a glass of water next to my bed, and I now, starting maybe 2 years ago, put vitamins next to my bed as well. Not that I won't remember to take the vitamins, not that vitamins are that difficult to remember in the morning or even to take in the morning, but it's just one less thing, right? You're reducing that friction. So whatever I can do to reduce friction, depending upon what the habit is or depending upon what the action is that I want to put in place. But that's something that I know for me is, and for many people maybe, but for me specifically, man, anytime I can reduce the friction, anytime I can notice what is stopping me or what's slowing me down, or how can I reduce that and how can I remove that barrier? That's something that's really, whether it's exercising or whether it's learning a new skill for work, or whether it's reaching out to new prospects or to a new company that I'm working with. Anytime I can remove barriers ahead of that particular task, I am all over it. I try to identify it left and right.
Ooh, and that is like literally the next question I want to dig into even more. So that's perfect. Trev, I want to hear your take. And one of the things that made me add this slide and want to focus on this topic for a little bit beyond the fact that the intent of the book is, goal setting and habits, is that James talks about something called the implementation intention. And the sort of gist of it is, this is the plan on how I intend to implement the habit. And I think maybe when I was younger, before I read this book, I would be like, you need to plan to implement the habit. Like, just do it. It's just a new habit. Just make it a habit. But like to Jennifer's point, how can you reduce the friction? How can you create that plan to integrate the habit into your life? What are your thoughts?
This one's going to sound a little out there, and this is why I was like, I need to think about this a little bit. But one, I guess, thing that I've been trying more recently to get better at is using the time before I go to bed to almost rewind the whole day and then create this stream of consciousness that I go into when I'm sleeping, so that when I wake up, that whatever the things are that I've wrote down, like I will connect with one executive director at a nonprofit community this week on Friday by 3 p.m. Like those sort of things, as you work them backwards, when you write them down, and then you also think about them when you're going to sleep, what starts to happen, or at least what I'm finding is that things start to like actually be inside of my consciousness. Like I don't have to work as hard at them anymore. And so, like, one thing that I've been really trying to do is like give myself more space to fall asleep instead of like a lot of people just, turn the TV off and try to hop in bed. It's like I have a routine that I've been trying more of like you need at least 30 minutes to an hour. You have to have only like I use headphones for this so I don't wake Lauren up because otherwise she would not be happy if I left the TV on all night with this type of audio on. And like, I think for me, it's like, how do I give myself multiple of the same exact stories in different ways so that I can like remember it better? Like writing it down, I will X by X at time. And then also thinking about it as I go into my sleeping, which then downloads into my subconscious, which I said it's a little out there for people, but it's starting to have a really big impact in how my brain just operates in a day. So,
ooh, thank you for sharing that with us. And the brain is crazy. Like the brain can do crazy, wild stuff. I'm sure folks here are familiar with the concept of growth mindset. New research that's coming out, or that has come out, like conclusively proves that we literally have the ability to rewire our brain. That is insane. And I'm with you, Travis. There are so many times where I fall asleep thinking over a problem and I don't have the answer, and I wake up and I have the answer. Like my brain has done the work for me. Well, I see both of you nodding. Anybody else that's listening, give us a shout in the comments. Have you ever fallen asleep thinking of a challenge with no answer, and you wake up in the morning and poof, you have it? Or just us three crazy cats here.
It's so funny because that happens. So the two of you, that happens to me a lot. And that's whenever I try to kind of create this space in the morning, I'm actually the most motivated and the most clear in my thinking when I first wake up in the morning, right? So those things that maybe I was challenged with the evening before or the day before, all of a sudden in the morning, I'm either able to think through it really clearly. And by morning, I mean like a few minutes after I wake up, when I'm still trying to just listen to my daily J, my 7 minutes daily J. And yet that's when I have my most clear thinking. That's when I'm able to sometimes move forward with something that was challenging for me the day before. Maybe it was that I wasn't able to think through and solve it, or maybe it's that I didn't want to have the conversation the day before and now I'm ready. And it's like this, it's like a double-edged sword, because it's wonderful that it happens. And for me, it's in those first moments. And I think research has shown that for many people, it happens in those, like the first half an hour that I'm awake. And yet I'm trying so hard to actually stick to a habit of not going to my phone and sending an email or writing a quick note down, because I'm trying to give myself the 60 minutes in the morning that I'm trying to carve out that kind of just allows me to think through. But I tend to wake up, Travis and Leslie, with these thoughts. Not that this is the point of today's conversation, but I would love some ideas on, again, it's a double-edged sword. It's wonderful, but at the same time, it's,
I will pause my meditation. If there's something that I really need to get out of my head, I will pause my meditation. I will text it to myself so that I can set it aside and come back to it later. One of our really good friends, Megan Misiak, also gave me kind of related to that. If there's something that you can't get off of your mind, but you're not ready to action it yet, or maybe it's like something you want to accomplish, but it's not a today thing, she put it in the future you pile. So you like write it on a Post-it and you put it in your future you pile. So it's there. You're not saying no, or you're not giving up on it. You're just putting it aside for that, that opportunity when it's more appropriate to rent space in your brain to it. So I'm not perfect. Like at least once a week I pause. I do Tamara Levitt, but like at least once a week I have to pause my meditation. That is only 10 minutes or 7 minutes, because I can't make it 7 whole minutes without texting a thought to myself. So I'm doing my level best here, but I am not perfect.
because it can be very energizing.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like Travis said, like you had this, you were wrestling with something, or maybe you're just thinking through it very peacefully and calmly the night before, and all of a sudden, I love that word or that phrase. I'm very actionable in the morning.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, and it looks like it's not just us.
4 a.m. I love it.
And we have Elliot earlier that said he's getting up at 5 to go work out. So I think that there are folks for who either that mental or physical action straight away is what is motivating and energy, and then there's another group of folks that want to maybe sit in peace. And to one of Travis's earlier statements, like you got to figure out what works best for you. You got to stick in your lane. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay. So you were talking, Jennifer, about like what we can see reducing the friction by putting it right in front of us. Kristen shared that example of having the water right on her bed. I also, with vitamins, you're like, vitamins aren't that hard to take. And I'm like, aren't they? Because I sure have a hard time remembering to take them. Travis, you're like, yes.
Yo, all I'm saying is the amount of times that I've even left the protein on the counter of like, yo, you're low, you need a protein shake. Lauren would be like, have you had protein this week? And I'll look and I'll be like, oh, that's right on the counter, right? Oh yeah. But like, no, it's real. It's super real, and like it's not just you, because like I've got a big tub of protein like this big on the counter sometimes, and she's like, babe, I made your protein shake. I'm like, oh, that's why I put it there. That's why I put it there. So I get it.
I have like a whole multicolored, like, Monday through like a pill box for an elderly person just to put my vitamins in. So it's visually appealing and I could take the little thing out and put it on my desk. So it's right there. And I still sometimes will end the day and be like, why did you not take these? You even bought yourself gummy vitamins so that it was like a treat. So I love that idea of, and there's also some really interesting science that say that like we get decision fatigue.
Yes.
So anything that we can remove from our lives that makes it a non-decision, like we just do it. Travis, I feel like you have something to add to that based on the enthusiasm.
Oh yeah. If y'all have never heard of the Roundum app, I've got the premium version of this thing, so I can have unlimited choices put in here. So one thing that Lauren and I have done, it's dinner is the number one thing that couples always are like, what do you want to eat for dinner? I want you to make the decision for dinner. And I'm like, you know what? Boop, throw in 4 choices, American, Thai, we cook, we order from Taco Bell. Do you want anything else in your soul before I spin this wheel? If you don't, speak now or forever hold your peace. Spin the wheel. Whatever it lands on is what we order for dinner. She doesn't have to think. I don't have to think. Dinner's ordered within 5 minutes.
I love that. And honestly, I feel for a lot of couples that probably takes some like tension out as well. Like it's like we're just doing this and everybody gets fed and everybody's always happier once they are fed.
Yeah, they don't usually care what. It's just like they want to eat something. And like the decision of having to say, no, I want Thai, or yes, I want pizza. They don't even want to do that. They just want the decision to be made for them. And like an app like Roundum, for me, you get choices, you put in the things you're trying to decide, ask the question, give yourself the desired outcomes, spin, and move on with your day.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Okay. I'm going to read a little piece from the book because I really loved this call out. So this is on page 84 for anybody that has the physical book. So James says the most powerful of all human sensory abilities is vision. The human body has about 11 million sensory receptors. Approximately 10 million of those are dedicated to sight. Like, just let that sink in for a little bit. Some experts estimate that half of the brain's resources are used on vision. Given that we are more dependent on vision than any other sense, it should come as no surprise that visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior. For this reason, a small change in what you see can lead to a big shift in what you do. And later he talks about removing mental candy. And I'd actually forgotten about the phrase mental candy, but then when I read it again, I was like, oh, I remember reading that, 3-4 years ago when I first picked the book up. It's so good. And I do this. Like, I used to have my wine racks in my office. I moved them to the entryway so that I wasn't looking at them going, oh, a glass of wine would be so nice, when really I should carry on working. Like, I moved my desk to face my SoulCycle bike so that it's right in front of me and I'm looking at it. Or I will like take my workout clothes and I will put them down so I have to physically step over them to do something. So I both put the sort of mental candy, I guess, in front of me, those mental reminders in front of me. And then I'll also, like, I don't buy like chips or junk food or snacks, because if it's in my house, it will go into my body, because I just don't have the extra willpower to exercise on things like that. So what are those pieces of mental candy that you either remove, and folks that are joining us on LinkedIn, drop your mental candy, or I guess for Adam, like your physical candy corn mental candy, into the chat, and let us know what it is. But yeah, what are those pieces of mental candy that you remove, or those pieces of maybe positive mental candy that you put front and center?
I've started to silence myself more, like from my own into, like, I have a lot of conversations with myself in my head, as everyone could tell. And so a lot of times I've been like starting to see that a lot of what's usually holding me back are these like mental things of like, oh, like you just want to do that because of this and this and this. And like, actually, if I actually listen to that advice, I can realize that I can actually ignore it.
Ooh.
So if I'm like, oh, so once I start to kind of hear like that negative talk in my head that happens when you're like getting to that 7th, 8th minute of like, crap, should I change things? Is my energy's not here? What do I do? And it's like, nah, instead of like agreeing to myself that this is the thing I should be disagreeing with or not listening to, I'm just like, oh, that's just old boy over there. He don't want to talk to me right now. And then I just keep moving. So it's like I'm getting stronger with my own like mental like mind. And a lot of times it's a shirt like this or looking at a medal that if I'm around in that environment of like positive things, then that negative stuff is starting to creep down slower and slower and slower. So like I guess that's a piece of my like negative mental candy that I've been trying to block out, that you can't really physically touch or see.
But almost it's like a self-talk, like being more like intentional about what self-talk you let okay, that's an interesting take.
You like let into your brain, or let sit with you. Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, unrelatable. I think everybody has struggled with like negative self-talk, imposter syndrome, like something like that, and acknowledging it and not going down that rabbit hole. That is a skill set, unto itself. Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Jennifer. What about you? What's your mental candy, good or bad?
Well, I love what Travis just said, and I'm going to keep that in mind. And the negative self-talk piece, the candy there is I will proactively either pick up the phone or send an email and create, a reason to have coffee or dinner or something with the Leslies and the Travises of the world, right when I'm having those moments. So thank you for mentioning that, Travis. That's really incredibly relatable. Imposter syndrome, negative self-talk can be, and it's so wasteful. It is so wasteful. Like, that's what I have to keep reminding myself when it hits, because it hits us all. And it's just such wasted energy. And the quicker you can come out of it, however you do that, the better, clearly. Let's see. I'm going to go back to the social media piece again. When iPhones came out, and when the past year, I've been really surprised at how much I have really spent and allowed myself to spend many times under the guise of, well, this is work. So the mental candy, or kind of what I do visually, is I have gone back to something that I had done for years and years, which was not have my iPhone, my smartphone, near me during certain, during my first 90 after the call map, right? I will remove the phone, the smart device, and remove it for an hour during times of the day. I mean, so much so that my family's like, I couldn't get in touch with you. I was like, I didn't have my phone. My phone was in the other room. Like, I'm not I'm not wedded to my phone any longer like that. And I worked with someone a couple years ago, a real favorite person of mine, who said, just because someone texts you doesn't mean you have to text right back. You have control over when you respond to that email or that voicemail or that text or that Slack, right? You have control over that. So for me, just moving the phone into another area of the house, and I do that pretty routinely now over the last couple months. I had done it years ago, and even just 2 years ago, and it's something that I'm trying to get back to. So the phone, removing it from my visual, the smart device, and then again, I keep going back to the exercise piece, because again, I come in and out of exercise, and it's always something that I feel much better when I do it. But again, making sure my running shoes are there, making sure that my workout stuff, anything that I need is right there, so that I don't have to think about it, and that it's a visual cue for me and I can get going. Something that I have in terms of a reward is, I'm not a coffee drinker or much of a tea drinker. Not that I don't like it or think it's bad or anything, but tea, throughout COVID, tea has been something that I've rewarded myself with. Some, like maybe 2 mornings a week, but just that, I don't know, there's something, it reminds me of my grandmother. She used to have tea with me. It was through talking with a friend that I was like, I don't know why I'm enjoying this tea so much, because I'm not really a tea drinker. And she's like, well, look into that just a little bit more. I was like, oh, right, my grandmother, when I was little, she and I'd go visit her, and she'd have tea every morning. And so tea is something that I will reward myself with, and just like that motion of going through the like hot tea, and after I've worked out and before I move on to work for the day, maybe a couple of times a week, I'll enjoy that tea. So.
Ooh, okay, that made me feel like a little bit emotional over here. But what a beautiful habit stack too.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely the habit stacking. After reading the book a couple of years ago, habit stacking is something that I pay a lot of attention to, and really need to. I mean, I'm not perfect at anything, so even this discussion, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many more ways that I could habit stack, and I really need to look into X, Y, and Z after this conversation.
Let's be honest, literally nobody is perfect. Loretta had a comment that's like, wait, we're allowed to pause meditations? Heck yeah, we are. We're allowed to do whatever serves us best in our full, like, imperfect oneness. That's who we are. And I think when we think about habits, like our go-to, or at least my go-to, I won't speak for you, is like, I need to stack my calm.com with listening to my Blinkist, with getting on my bike. But it doesn't all have to be these like hyper productivity habits. It can be, I'm going to stack calm with just sitting for 5 minutes. Like, it can just be simple things like, I'm going to have a cup of tea because it brings back warm memories, and that puts me in a good place to carry on with my day. I love that. That was a really lovely story to share with us. Thank you for doing that. And I think off the back of this session, like, one of my biggest calls to actions for folks that have joined us, that are reading the book, is to think about what do you see in that mental candy? And is there a small change you can make tonight, tomorrow? Like, can you move your desk so it's not facing the fridge? Can you like pull the thing of, like carrots to the front instead of what are those super tiny things you can do that take like no effort, that you can accomplish in 30 seconds, that create that mental candy or remove that mental candy? Trav, what were you going to add?
I was just going to add in tools for that, because I actually just did that recently last month. I changed the orientation of my office. This took a little more than 30 seconds, but I was typically facing that wall, and then I changed it so I faced this wall to just have a whole new perspective. And then I've also strategically added always having a candle that's like full. So like, I have a candle burning right now, Yo, that's what I'm saying.
Oh my
So like the fact that we all have candles on our desks just proves my point again, where like I normally wouldn't, but I've consciously been like, you don't know what has been keeping you calm and focused in certain ways. And I'm like,
Oh my god.
this has
Oh
been that leave candle scent that we've been going,
I've
and y'all
made
have the
my
same things.
office like a spa sanctuary. I have
Yes.
my candle. I have a variety of crystals everywhere. I have my like thing, and I ding that when I just need like a little mental reset. I sometimes put the music on my calm.com app on my speaker so it even sounds like a spa. Like I go full
Yo, I do that too. People be looking at me like, bro, what are you listening to on your Spotify? And I'm
mind
like,
your business.
I'm minding your business. I'm in my space. Go back to yours.
Oh my gosh, Rebecca, everyone grabs their
love
candles.
that
I love
we-
that. Like, oh, same.
I love that like all three of us unplanned, anything, all grab their candles because I'm telling you that if you consider it a habit, when COVID hit and everyone started working from home 2.5 years ago, so the first thing I did is I kind of repainted my office, this nice calming color. I got some chairs in the background here that I can sit, and I brought my very favorite scent of candle. I have a couple scents that I really love, but this one is one that is incredibly calming to me. It's the Myers. Let me get you the right. It's the Myers. I guess it's the Clean Day. It's the orange clove scent. That's it. It's the Myers orange clove scent. They only sell it a few times a year because I guess some people think it smells like Thanksgiving. I don't. I think it just smells very like refreshing and orangey and like clean and citrusy. But yeah, that's so funny.
Everybody's candles. If anybody's trying to pull a Sam McKenna, show me you know me, and prospect to Jennifer, you now know your way in the door. Cool, that's amazing. But I think we genuinely hit on something really important, that habits can be small things like pausing and lighting a candle to reset your day, having a cup of tea a couple of times a week. They don't all have to be these huge, like magnificent pivots. They can be these small actions. Oh, we lost Trav. I'm sure he'll come back in a sec. And I loved that you talked about your relationship with your phone, because that's something I dramatically changed like probably 7 or 8 years ago. I have my phone on silent always. It was actually like a drop, like a drag, like drop down, drag out. That doesn't sound right. It was a big fight that I had with the founder I was working for at the time, because even outside of work hours, he wanted me to have my work cell phone on ring. And I was like, absolutely not. My phone is never on ring ever, my personal or my work phone, because my phone's not the boss of me. And if it dings or rings or whatever, I'm going to look at it. So that was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And then I've kept a work phone since then. My work phone always gets left in the office. And that's where I keep my work email, my Slack, my LinkedIn even. I don't have on my personal phone, so that I don't have to worry about resisting the temptation. Like the temptation is completely removed from my brain. So I think that's a big one. And because so much of our lives are on our phone, because social media is so accessible, that could be a really good starting place for a lot of the folks joining us today. So I know that we only have a few minutes here. And of course, our conversation was amazing. So we're not going to be able to get through all of our questions. Like, what a wonderful problem to have, right? I want to hit on this one because one of the things about social media is that it can trick us into thinking that we are in motion. And some examples of this, TikTok very famously like favors items that are shared, because when people share like a cooking video, a tip, so they think they've tricked their brain into thinking that they've taken more action than they have. So they get that rush of dopamine. I'm going to cook this later. I'm going to read this later. I'm going to look at this website later. And they've tricked their brain into doing more work than they have. We all see it on LinkedIn too. How many people spend way too much time reading things on LinkedIn, reading practitioner-led advice, whatever, but not actually trying it, doing it, seeing what works and what doesn't. And in the book, James says that motion allows us to feel like we are making progress without running the risk of failure. And that was like a like mic drop, like damn scene sort of moment, because we all do it, right? We all do it. We're all human. So how do you take action? Like, you guys are both hugely successful in your own fields and your own communities. What's your trick to that forward motion that is real and gritty and full of action? Jennifer, you want to start us off?
Oh my gosh, this is gonna sound incredibly tactical. It's something that I discovered about myself, I don't know, in the last number of years. So like, let's say last 5 years, I can take most action in the morning. So anytime before maybe 11 a.m. is really the time for me to take action on something. So that's a little tactical, maybe, for the question that you're asking. So I'll just the tactical piece is, I know what time of day I am most keyed into taking action, and it is before 11 a.m. When it comes to taking action from the strategic sense of the word, for me, I need to write it down. I need to not bite off too much. I have in the past been someone who has always tried to deliver on action, 17 things in a day. And when others whom I respect greatly say, like, you want to pull that back to maybe 5? So I write it down, and I'm also really conscious of what can I really accomplish in a day or in a week or in a quarter, and take action on those things, and don't try to over plan or over program what it is that I'm trying to take action on. So the tactical is, I try to do things in the morning, right? In the short term, the action piece when it comes to my life or my professional life, personal and professional life. And then I'm really aware of what it is that I am actually trying to do, and what I'm actually trying to strategically take action on, and be aware of not over committing to that action, because you can come up short, and then you can start to beat yourself up on that when someone else would look at it and say, there's no way, like what were you're trying to hold you a whole year's worth of stuff in one quarter. Yeah. So I've gotten much better at that. I don't know. I see some nodding heads.
I think that's great. I don't do moonshot goals for that exact reason. Like, it does not work for me. I do not set goals that I do not think I can realistically achieve, because then I either overdo it and I push myself too hard, or no, I just overdo it because I don't do anything halfway. And so then I'm like working myself to the bone to over deliver. So I don't set moonshot goals anymore for that exact reason. That's really interesting. What about you, Travis?
I'd say, like, for me, it's a lot similar. And like, I actually use other people, spoiler alert, for action. So my co-founder I work with closely, very, 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 very close. And when I'm finding myself at that hurdle of like, I need to walk away, I'll literally just call him. And I'm like, bro, what we need to do? And he'll be like, bro, you already know what you need to do. I'm like, yeah, but like, did we think about the full impact of this program, this strategy, this campaign? And he's like, bro, no, we already made the program. We already know the impact. You already know what to do. Just do it. And then it's usually either 2 or 3 of those to then get me to do it. But if I don't do that, then certain things will just drop. So shout out to Eric, my partner, for being there to help me kind of get through those little hurdles of like, dude, like, get out of your, his literal quote, if you could put it on a shirt, would be, Trav, get out of your own way.
Ooh, that is great advice for anybody. I do a lot of like take period, action period. Like, just like put yourself in motion. It gets easier when you keep going. But I love that both of you sort of touched on like sense checking with somebody else. Like you're up in your head and you're like, what do you think about this? And they're like, just do it. Or, hey, this is the goal I'm thinking about setting. And they're like, what? Like, what? Why? Dial that back. You're at a 12. We need you to come to a 7 so that it's achievable. And when you do it, you do grow. Oh, that's like so incredibly relatable. Okay, we are right at 5. So unfortunately, we're like almost done with our conversation, which is crazy. This was such an incredible conversation. And I'd love to maybe just wrap up with a little bit of a summary, as well as telling folks where they can find you. These were a couple of my big highlights from the book. And as you can see, that take action is on there. I mean, I'm also deeply motivated by things like guilt and ego. So those help me take action. Not particularly healthy. I'm working on it, but you know, we can only do so much. But yes, tell the folks what your big takeaways were and where they can connect with you off the back of this conversation.
Go ahead, Jennifer. Ladies first. Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. So for me, I think some takeaways from the book that have really stuck with me, and that even in rereading or going through little pieces of the book again to keep things fresh, the making it easy, removing the friction, and then again that aha moment for me, because as we've learned this hour, all three of us are goal setters. But really the process, what is the process? What's the system that I'm gonna think about as I set a new habit, whether it be a small habit or a big habit? And you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Jennifer Ives. What is it? Jennifer Ives 1, I think. But Jennifer Ives on LinkedIn. Would love to make some new friends and have you connect with me. You make my day. Thank you so much.
And if anybody can't track down Jennifer, message me and I will make sure to get her link over to you. She posts great content. So you absolutely want to be following with her.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I think that strep is catching up with me, team.
You're doing so well. Oh my
God. I'm like just chugging my Nalgene and shaking. Travis, bring us home.
Oh yeah. So I'll be nice and quick with mine. Like one thing that is coming back to me that's more and more at the front of my like being right now is the identity piece, and like realizing that like 1% better every single day is helping you live the identity that you want to live. And like that identity piece is something that's been kind of like floating around, of like you're trying to figure it out. And like rereading this is it's reminding me that like, no, you are a person that drives impact. You are someone that's getting 1% better every day in multiple fields, right? Because the number one thing that I see a lot is that we are like niche down. You should only learn and pick up one thing. And I'm over here like, if I didn't just learn this 1% thing from this music teacher that now I just brought back to my founders that I just talked to today about their sales process and how it's similar to this other thing, I wouldn't be keeping fresh and be able to move as fast. So realizing that it's okay that I am a like music person and also a startup person and also a dog person, that's okay to my identity. And I don't have to just be the startup guy or the community builder. And that's like a piece that I know I've struggled with a lot. Like how do I niche myself down? And so like that identity piece in the book and how it helps bring awareness, bring sense of purpose, and 1% better every day is kind of the thing that's going to stick with me.
Ooh,
oh yeah, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Travis Andre King. Yeah, my bad.
That's right. Absolutely connect with both Travis and Jennifer, two of my favorite creators, two of my favorite humans. Love those takeaways. Like start small, make it frictionless, put it in front of you. Don't focus on big changes. Focus on those things that you can do in 30 seconds and in 60 seconds that create that 1% improvement every single day. Thank you both so much for joining me. And thanks to everybody on LinkedIn for spending this hour with us. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. It's been so great getting to know you, Travis. This is wonderful. And Leslie, it's always nice seeing you. Feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah, heal
Rest.
up. And
Take
such a
care of
pleasure.
you.
I can't even believe you still went through. I was
I
like, girl,
know.
you got strep. You out here putting the team on your whole back, running down the field like this. Like, I got it. I got
I'm
it.
doing it. I am about ready to take a lot of cough syrup and crawl into bed. So do not worry.
All good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Take care.